Good day, dear participants. We are so happy to see you today. Together, we're going to discuss cooperation between police and community in combating domestic violence, because this week is the last week of the 16-day campaign on combating domestic violence. And unfortunately, within the conditions of COVID-19, the amount of domestic violence cases raised up. And due to the fact that people were in a closed environment, locked in the rooms, unfortunately, it led to domestic violence. And today we are going to discuss this issue in cooperation with police, international partners, and NGOs. So I'm very happy to greet everybody: Patrol Police, NPU, international organizations who are our constant partners, NGOs, and for the first greeting word, I would like to invite the director of the CUPDP, Tom Monastyrsky, please. Good day, everyone. On behalf of my colleagues and our Canadian partners, I want to thank everyone for attending this webinar today. My name is Tom Monastyrsky, and I'm the director of the Canada-Ukraine Police Development Project. We would like to thank Canadian government support. Last year was very challenging for us. Everything has been changed: how we work, how we communicate. The pandemic has also changed how we implement our project, as there has been more virtual webinars, and our goal of the project remains the same. However, how we work has changed significantly. Unfortunately, the cases of domestic violence has been increased due to COVID-19. I know that many of you on this webinar today, either police officer or representatives of NGOs, have been working hard, and we know we have Kherson, Ivano-Frankivsk, and other cities, and you help those who suffered due to domestic violence. As we come to an end in the campaign, 16 days to combating domestic violence, I want to thank all of you for your efforts. Today, our plan is to talk about important work that our NGO partners have been doing these past few months in collaboration with police. We also want to use the opportunity to share a short video that summarizes an online course we have developed with NPU to help police officers understand the dynamics and causes of domestic violence so that they can better respond to incidents. It has been a difficult year for many people in Ukraine, and the winter and lockdown will become worse for many victims of domestic violence. However, every time that someone can be saved by the work of NGOs and police officers represents a positive step forward, but I think we all agree that we have a long way to go in eliminating domestic violence in our society. I want to thank all of my colleagues and our moderator and our tech team and our partners for their work in organizing this event, and for all of you for being here today. I look forward to fruitful discussion. Thank you. And
I also want to take this opportunity to thank a few people back in Canada, my colleague and friend Tracy Hardy, who's been instrumental in moving along our work on domestic violence for the past year. As well, I'd like to thank and welcome my colleague Christine St. Pierre, who's our gender advisor, who's also contributed significantly over the years to our work. And finally, I'd like to welcome to this platform today Inspector Alanna Dunlop from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who our partners met in Vancouver a couple of years ago, and I'd like to thank her and welcome her to this work today. As I know, Tracy and Alanna are both sitting on the west coast of Canada, and it's very early, so I'd like to thank them for being here with us today.
Я просто хотів скористатися також цією можливістю подякувати моїм колегам, зокрема Трейсі Харді, за її вклад в діяльність нашого проекту протягом цих років. І дійсно вона була потужним нашим консультантом і експертом. Також і Крістін Сен-П'єр, яка дивиться нас зараз з Канади, з Оттави. І хочу привітати, яка вперше на цій платформі з нами, інспектор Аланна Данлоп. Ми дуже вдячні за те, що ти змогла приєднатися до нас. І я хочу подякувати знову колегам за те, що вони прокинулися дуже рано на заході і на сході Канади і приєдналися до нас. Дуже вам дякую.
Thank you very much, Tom Monastyrsky, and we're all happy to see you here today. Please text in comments which organizations you represent, which cities you are from. We're always interested in hearing about your opinion. We want to know what you think. Let me remind you that you can ask questions to our speakers, and we will be able to share these questions either live, or if we don't have an opportunity to do it live, we will pass these comments to international partners. We have Cherkasy here in Khmelnytsky, Kyiv, Poltava, Ivano-Frankivsk region, Zaporizhia. Greetings to all of you. We continue, and we will start session number one. Session number one, it's effective cooperation between international partners, police, NGOs in combating domestic violence in conditions of COVID-19. We understood how important it is to get together and create new opportunities and continue the projects we have already started to fight this challenging, difficult problem for all people all over the world, not only in Ukraine. That's why I would like to suggest you to listen to our speakers, pay attention to what they're saying. They're going to emphasize what's important and what results we have today, and what we're going to use to move forward, and how are we going to start the new year with new ideas. That's why the first speaker saying the word is going to be Kateryna Pavlichenko, Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs. Kateryna, please. Thank you, Kateryna. Good day, everybody. Good day, Mr. Tom Monastyrsky. Good day, colleagues, partners, everyone who is listening to us and watching us in Ukraine as well as in Canada. I know that we have many Canadian colleagues who are watching this online discussion. And first of all, I would like to greet all everybody with the Day of Human Rights, because today is the Day of Human Rights, and it's very symbolic that this particular day is finalizing the international campaign 16 days against violence. I always say that fighting violence, domestic violence, is essential part of our work. So let me greet everyone, and online shaking your hands, and thank all of you for all your work that you've been doing in this sphere. This topic is very essential today, and that's why we talk a lot about it. From my side, I would like to ensure you that the Ministry of Internal Affairs sets one of the priorities is zero tolerance for the offender. The pandemic COVID-19 made us reconsider the mechanisms, certain mechanisms, and change approaches to work of our departments in NPU. With our partners, we focused on online tools, thanks to Canada, CUPDP project for initiatives that have been already implemented in our collaboration online course that has been posted on a platform Action or DIA. And the course we're going to present today for the police officers, it's online course. It's huge joint cooperation. A lot of efforts have been put into this, into development of this course, into video shooting of this online course. And I'm sure it will be essential, important instrument for police development and for preparation of our police officers. From my side, on my behalf, I would like to thank all of you, in particular CUPDP, and let me ensure you that the ministry will continue to support this direction to empower all the mechanisms to combat domestic violence. Thank you, Kateryna, and thank you, Kateryna, for your constant support and help in our projects, components of our projects. We will continue to work further in this dynamics. And as Kateryna has mentioned, we will present the promo video clip, educational video clip for the police officers who are the first responders. Thank you, Kateryna, and we go on. And the next speaker I would like to invite, and she's from Canada. They have morning in Canada right now. The Chief of Community Policing Department from Surrey, Alanna Dunlop. Alanna, please.
Thank you very much. It is very early here in Canada, but it is my pleasure to be here with you today. And I bring greetings from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in British Columbia, Canada. I'd like to extend a special welcome to those participating today that are working on the front line supporting victims of domestic violence in communities across your country. I look forward to hearing from your non-government organizations about their experiences and lessons learned regarding coordination and specific activities they're involved in to combat domestic violence. It's been a particularly challenging year. Domestic violence is a global issue. It is a reality in Canada and around the globe. It requires an integrated and holistic response from all of us. And in my experience, the development of relationships and networks is critical for a community policing approach.
Переклад, будь ласка.
Дійсно, це рано дуже в Канаді зараз, в нашому узбережжі, але я все одно, мені дуже приємно брати сьогодні участь в цьому заході разом з вами. І я також хочу передати вам вітання від Королівської канадської кінної поліції та провінції Британська Колумбія, де я знаходжусь. Особливі слова привітання хочу надіслати тим, хто сьогодні на передовій подолання домашнього насильства в українських громадах по всій країні. Я буду дуже радий почути пізніше в програмі виступи громадських організацій про їх досвід, вивчені уроки, які вони отримали під час своєї діяльності, а також під час, як вони скоординовували дії з партнерами щодо протидії цьому явищу домашнього насильства.
I had the pleasure of presenting to a delegation from the UAWLE last fall when the group visited our headquarters building in Surrey, British Columbia.
Мені дійсно проблема домашнього насильства є глобальною проблемою, це не лише в Україні, а також і в Канаді. І минулої осені в мене була гарна нагода приймати делегацію з Української асоціації представниць правоохоронних органів якраз тут в Канаді, в місті Суррей, Британській Колумбії.
I shared similarities between our countries, including population size, underreporting of domestic violence incidents, and the fact that women are disproportionately victims of these crimes. I talked about domestic violence response in Canada and prevention initiatives and opportunities.
Тоді ми під час нашої зустрічі ми обговорювали схожості між нашими країнами, розмір населення, той факт, що в обох країнах статистика щодо фактів домашнього насильства є неповною, а також те, що жінки становлять абсолютну більшість постраждалих осіб. Ми говорили про підходи до реагування та превентивні заходи щодо цієї проблеми в Канаді.
It was also very important to share with the group that despite the adoption of domestic violence frameworks, policies, coordinated responses, and standardized training, we continue to learn and improve.
І нам також було дуже важливо тоді зазначити те, що важливо не лише запроваджувати державні політики, мати певну скоординованість дій, а також розробляти рамкові міжвідомчі документи, а важливо також уніфіковано підходити до підвищення кваліфікації наших працівників.
For law enforcement present today, listening to this broadcast, I understand that domestic violence response training is in development. In Canada, we have found that it is important to immediately incorporate your learning into your daily work.
Звертаючись зараз до правоохоронців, рада нагадати вам про онлайн-курс з протидії домашньому насильству, який зараз, наскільки я розумію, на стадії завершення. В Канаді ми прийшли до того, що дуже важливим є невідкладне застосування вивченого матеріалу на практиці.
Understanding the dynamics of domestic violence, how to conduct risk assessments and safety planning will improve your response to victims of violence.
Розуміння природи домашнього насильства, правильне проведення оцінки ризиків, планування особистої безпеки постраждалих покращить результативність, реагування та допомогу постраждалим особам.
Victims depend on us, and responding appropriately to domestic violence incidents and having an awareness of resources and referral options that exist in communities is a law enforcement responsibility. How we work with victims builds trust with them and the agencies that support them.
Треба розуміти, що постраждалі особи залежать від нас, поліцейських. Професійність реагування на факти домашнього насильства та володіння інформацією про наявні ресурси у відповідних регіонах, зокрема для перенаправлення, є обов'язок правоохоронців. Те, як ми працюємо з постраждалими, впливає на рівень їхньої довіри до державних структур.
Police supervisors. Supporting your people and providing oversight for domestic violence risk assessments is critical to building organizational competencies.
Звертаючись до начальників різних підрозділів поліції, хочу зазначити, що підтримка ваших підлеглих та належний контроль за проведенням оцінки ризиків є вирішальним у покращенні компетенції вашого підрозділу.
We have found that reviewing investigations against recommended standards, such as training, improves outcomes and consistency. And it is important to note that risk assessment is a perishable skill.
В Канаді ми зрозуміли, що постійне намагання дотримуватись належних стандартів в роботі є запорукою результативності та ефективності. Важливо зазначити, що навички, необхідні для проведення оцінки ризиків, поступово втрачаються.
These skills need to be practiced often to identify opportunities for improvement, and feedback from supervisors is critical to help us improve our training programs.
Тому їх постійно треба підтримувати на практиці та використовувати можливості для покращення. Належна оцінка, відгук від супервайзерів безпосереднього керівництва допомагає у зростанні персоналу.
For non-government agencies, in my experience, community agencies supporting domestic violence victims are a critical component of coordination and collaboration.
Звертаюсь до недержавного сектору. За свої роки роботи я впевнений, що громадські об'єднання, які підтримують постраждалих осіб, є вкрай важливим компонентом загальної мережі допомоги постраждалим.
Not only do they provide support for victims on the front lines, but they also advocate for change, and I am grateful for their commitment to working with us in Canada on training initiatives, developing workshops, and working with us to improve coordinated response.
І вони не лише безпосередньо надають послуги, необхідні постраждалим, а ще й виконують адвокаційну роль. Ми маємо бути постійно вдячні за їх роботу. І ми дуже раді, що тут в Канаді вони співпрацюють, такі організації з нами, під час розробки різноманітних тренінгів, навчальних програм і для кращої ефективності та скоординованості наших дій.
Here in Canada, my team works with a provincial level non-government agency to deliver training programs to police officers and community agency workers side by side. It demonstrates our mutual respect and common goal to support domestic violence victims.
В Канаді мій поліцейський відділ тісно співпрацює з громадськими організаціями в провінції Британська Колумбія над навчальними програмами як для офіцерів поліції, так і для соцробітників. Така співпраця відображає взаємоповагу, внесок у спільну справу, скоординована протидія домашньому насильству.
In Canada, government is a committed partner and for law enforcement response and prevention, and my team works closely with the provincial government to advance training and response initiatives.
В Канаді державні органи є ключовим гравцем протидії та запобігання. Ми постійно працюємо разом із урядом провінції над покращенням навчання та механізмів реагування.
A project we are working on together currently is reviewing the 19 risk factors for domestic violence, as well as the online training for police officers to ensure that it is current with evidence-based best practices.
Наразі у нашому фокусі спільна робота над аналізом 19 факторів ризику щодо вчинення домашнього насильства, а також перегляд онлайн-курсу для поліцейських на предмет його актуальності в сучасних реаліях та відповідності найкращим практикам.
Despite decades of dedicated efforts to reduce and raise awareness of domestic violence, there continues to be opportunities to improve.
Незважаючи на десятки років роботи разом над проблемою домашнього насильства, все ще залишаються можливості для більш тісної і кращої співпраці.
Some of these opportunities include improving underreporting rates of domestic violence, root causes of violence, expanding prevention programming to educate communities about the signs of domestic violence.
Що нам потрібно? Краща співпраця для того, щоб якомога більше випадків вчинення домашнього насильства стали відомими. Нам також бракує заходів із попередження, зокрема для просвіти громадськості щодо ознак насильства.
It has been a pleasure to join you this morning and to share lessons learned in Canada, in British Columbia, Canada, and I commend all of you for your interest in understanding and learning about how we can all work together to combat domestic violence. Thank you.
Дякую за надану можливість поділитися з вами уроками на основі канадського досвіду, зокрема з Британської Колумбії. Мені надзвичайно приємно відмітити вашу зацікавленість у вивченні питання того, як ми можемо всі разом покращити нашу спільну роботу для реагування на цю глобальну проблему. Дякую вам.
Thank you, Alanna. Thank you for stressing importance of cooperation of police with authorities and non-governmental organizations to unite efforts fighting such a terrible thing as domestic violence. Both Canada and Ukraine have this issue to be solved between different stakeholders, police, patrol police, and different other authorities. And we, as a project, cooperate with patrol police for quite a while. And specifically with patrol police, we have completed certain community policing projects to fight such terrible thing as domestic violence plus other issues we face. And now I would like to invite a next speaker, First Deputy Head of Patrol Police, Oleksiy Biloshitsky. Please do.
Good day, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you, and I'm very happy to be a part of this discussion on this very important topic, because those results that we have right now and the statistics that we have and the trends that we see right now, they tell us about how relevant this issue is. And because this is very specific topic in conditions of pandemic COVID-19, and what are the results and aspects taking into consideration these criteria. Before I talk about cooperation and events we're going to launch, I would like to start with the results that we have, and the results everybody is aware of. The starting point, so everyone will understand the statistics and the results of NPU work and patrol police work and other organizations that deal with this issue. So first of all, I would like to say about complaints addressed about domestic violence for the last 10 months of this year and last year, and we see the huge increase comparing with 100 the raise is more than 50%, and some critics say that the domestic violence increased. In my opinion, and not only in my opinion, it doesn't mean that the domestic violence raised up. It only means that people started to talk and report on domestic violence, because domestic violence was present and widespread in our society through the years, decades, and we consider that this is the result of our work, of our cooperation. Also, besides the increase of complaints, the response, the amount of response is increased. The percentage of responses was increased to 20%, and also the such a thing as EPO, the implementation of EPOs and the usage of EPOs is also a positive outcome. Last year, we issued 9,000 EPOs, and this year we have more than 30,000. So we can see that informative part is increased, complaints are increased, people inform about that, and which leads to a response and amount of responses, which means that people start trusting, people will see how well it's been responded, and they will continue to report on the cases of domestic violence. I would like to mention the importance of all the stakeholders in combating domestic violence. And first of all, it's very important. The NGO's role is very important, and community's role is very important, because our foundation is community policing, and we try to launch as many projects as possible in all the regions, community policing projects, in order to combat the domestic violence. And informative campaigns, they really help. Our projects, individual projects that we have, we also have in media campaign and information campaign. Also, we created useful tools for people, for the victims who suffered from domestic violence. These tools are such as chat bot that was launched by the ministry, Act Against Violence. It's a huge essential tool for informing people, victims, in questions what to do if the violence occurred. What must be done in the legislative piece? Within the recent time, we have huge changes in the law, because there were additional tools, including EPO that I mentioned above, new norms of responsibilities, criminal offense that never occurred before. Now we have a criminal offense for domestic violence cases, but still we have not enough tools in the law for the police officers, not enough. That's why this is a continuous work that must be done. Also, I think the level and quality of responses to domestic violence cases must be improved. And I would like to mention our cooperation with international partners and participation of NGOs in creating trainings, courses for the police officers. And today we will present another course, and also summarizing, I would like to say that cooperation with NGOs regarding patrol police and NPU in all the regions of Ukraine, we have tons of projects. I will not take all the time enumerating all of the projects, but I would like to stop on one of them. This is a very positive project that has a very positive outcome. This is a project that was created for our youngest students, which is called Circle of Safety.
Рольової гри, за допомогою таких освітніх моментів, коли дітей навчають.
Это она просто забыла выключить свой Zoom.
Which helps to show the kids what is domestic violence and that this is bad, it shouldn't be this way, and with the help of a game, it's explained for the kid. And the child receives a lot of information through this game. What is domestic violence? Because a lot of kids, they grow up in the families where they see domestic violence, but they don't know that this is exactly what it is.
Дуже радий всіх бачити і радий був поспілкуватися.
Дякуємо, Олексій Георгійович, за співпрацю, за вашу промову. А ми продовжуємо далі, тому що я бачу дуже багато і патрульних поліцейських.
Thank you very much, and we continue.
And we do thank you for opportunity to communicate. Unfortunately, we will not be able to ask questions our speakers, but still we expect you to write comments, and we will definitely ask those questions from you. And while we are reading your comments, I would like to invite to speak Serhiy Aloshkin, head of Department of Preventive. Dear participants, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I would like to say, to tell our partners, to representatives of local authorities and NGOs, and I would like also to thank NGOs who care about this issue, who do understand what it means, and who stay together with us and help us to solve the issue, and who fight domestic violence and prevent domestic violence. And we would like to lessen impact of this thing on our society. But I would like to start from 2017. At that time, nobody would believe that in a couple of years there would be a new law adopted and new mechanisms will get implemented. But in 2017, there was a pilot project, Police Against Violence, and 3 cities, Odessa, Severodonetsk, and Kyiv, had mobile groups introduced who fought domestic violence. The process was quite a long one, and definitely national police had to create policies in addition to the law adopted, as Mr. Biloshitsky has mentioned previously. And the path was quite a long one, and we definitely made it. And last year, in 42 cities of Ukraine, in major regional centers as well as minor cities, we have 42 mobile groups working and fighting domestic violence. I know that a lot of skeptics would not believe that there will be an efficient and resultive work of such groups, but we now see that the result was high, and these groups do not only react to the fact of domestic violence and not only write down paperwork and fill up forms. Their task is to help, to assist and help the victim, And they also work on prevention. They don't want offender to commit such crime again in future, and they engage all the subjects and stakeholders who care for this issue. And as a result, 20% of domestic violence cases are worked with by these mobile groups. 35% of restrictive orders are issued by these mobile groups. 20% of all the work done on this issue is done by these mobile groups. So we have a result, we do have one. Definitely we cooperate with social services, with shelters. They provide first aid. They also help to place victims to the shelters. There's a lot of work to do for these mobile groups. The group consists of patrol police, district police, and juvenile prevention police, plus first responders, patrol police as well. They all combine in the group, and they provide good results. And we communicate constantly with them. And as soon as we arrive to a region to provide certain consultations or trainings, we talk to these people, and we see they're motivated to work. They're really ready to work. And some of our workers even say that certain families where it's really tough to help to fight this case of domestic violence, some of these families do become friends to the mobile group representatives, and our police officers are striving to help. And I do want to say thank you to all our international partners, CPMU, EUM, CUPDP, those who help us to provide trainings, who teach, who create all the brochures and methods, who provide online trainings, who provide leaflets and brochures. There is a lot of resultive work done starting 2018. When this law was introduced in 2018, we have reached certain results, and we are working to better those results. And following the order of the President of Ukraine on fighting domestic violence, which was signed this fall, will push other authorities and stakeholders to work together to fight and prevent domestic violence. And as for cooperation between police and public, I would like to stress the cooperation with NGOs, those NGOs who work and help. And in addition to decentralization reform, when there is more power given to the regions, and after the presidential elections, we have now joined territorial communities which are responsible for their own territories and who are now not ruled from center and who fight domestic violence on their own. They've created cooperation with local NGOs, and these organizations are willing to help victims and cooperate with other stakeholders efficiently. I don't want to keep your time. I know that time is money, and we have a lot of people talking today. And I'd like to stress that it's really pleasant that the NGOs work, and we want to cooperate with them. We're always open to cooperation, and would like to get other stakeholders, like newly created communities, local authorities, all the new deputies elected. We are ready to cooperate with all of them. And we will all work for the benefit of people, and will solve the issue. And we do hope that in a year, or maybe even earlier, this process
Понімання процесів і негативного ставлення суспільства
will be considered,
домашнього насильства у нас
the process of fighting domestic violence will be considered as negative by all the society, and we will have more people working on this issue. Thank you, Serhiy. Thank you for cooperation, stressing cooperation, especially when you spoke about mobile groups. We will discuss that part and cooperation as well. And we will discuss cooperation between social services and police to fight and prevent domestic violence. And reading comments, I see that our participants have stressed certain questions. And as Serhiy has mentioned, we have a lot of things to fight in future. And as we now have more statistics on domestic violence, we also see people report, and we see more resultative work is done on this issue. Not only number of cases increase, but number of solved cases also increase. Restrictive orders is an example. Number of victims, a number of offenders who are now reported and who are worked with by police has also increased. And I would like to say that cooperation between international partners, public and authorities leads to easier work, and we do not waste resources. Summarizing this session, I would like to mention the motto of this informational campaign, 16 Days Against Domestic Violence, is paint orange. We have also used those colors, and we have reached the goal of this topic, of this campaign. What it means, we help to fund certain domestic violence initiatives, and today we will be also discussing how we can increase cooperation and how police can work better. Prevention, as Mr. Biloshitsky has mentioned, prevention is assisted by information campaigns, which help to improve reaction to domestic violence. And we have also collected a lot of statistics and data on this issue. It helps to understand where we are and what we can improve to fight the violence. And now I have a question to our listeners. What is your experience with domestic violence? Have you had any experience with fighting domestic violence? Whether you know issues we need to face? What should be stressed as an important part of fighting domestic violence? And how can we use such a platform of cooperation between public and authorities? We're waiting for your comments. And now we're going to next stage, and stage is training online course on reaction to domestic violence for police officers and first responders. Some of our speakers have mentioned that today is the day when we present this online course. It was created together with National Police and Ministry of Interior's CPMU mission and CUPDP project was leader in creating this course, and this course will be used to teach first responders how to deal with the issue. And now to present this course, I would like ask Tracy Hardy to step in. Tracy is the deputy commissioner, retired, who has 34 years of experience working with police in Canada. Tracy is working with CUPDP. Please, Tracy, your floor is yours.
Thanks, Kate. It's an honor to be here to profile the course Tom mentioned on this Day of Human Rights.
Дякую, пані Катерина. Це для мене честь представити цей курс, як вже згадувалося вами.
As discussed, domestic violence is a grave phenomenon in Ukraine, similar to many other countries in the world, including Canada, as stated by Alanna.
Як вже зазначалося багатьма спікерами, домашнє насильство є дійсно серйозною проблемою як для України, так і для багатьох інших країн по всьому світу, включаючи Канаду, що сказала моя колега Алана.
Survivors are often reluctant to report the incident to law enforcement agencies due to a number of factors.
Постраждалі особи не завжди готові повідомляти такі випадки домашнього насильства в правоохоронні органи.
It's shame, fear of possible retaliation by their perpetrators, distrust of public institutions, including the police, or the expectation of stigmatization by their community.
І цьому є різні причини, чому так може трапитись, серед яких сором, боязнь можливої помсти з боку кривдника, недовіра до державних структур, до поліції в тому числі, та побоювання проявів стигматизації з боку оточуючих.
Victims rarely call the police after the first or even second violent incident and might leave and return many times, and it's important that officers understand this.
Постраждалі особи зрідка звертаються до поліції після першого чи навіть другого випадку вчинення насильства. Вони можуть уходити від кривдника та повертатись багато разів, і це дуже важливо розуміти.
Police are at the front line of the criminal justice system, and while conducting their duties, they are confronted by victims, offenders, witnesses, and various forms of evidence.
Поліція є ключовим правоохоронним органом в системі реагування. При виконанні своїх обов'язків вони стикаються з постраждалими, кривдниками, свідками та мають зважати на багато інших факторів.
Their attitude and response to all involved can have a dramatic impact, including the prevention of future violent acts and protection of victims.
Саме їхня здатність належним чином поводитися зі всіма залученими сторонами має вирішальну роль у попередженні майбутніх проявів насильства та захисті свідків.
Trust in police response to domestic violence is largely determined by the police officer's attitude to domestic violence.
Довіра до того, як поліція реагуватиме на випадок домашнього насильства, залежить великою мірою від професійності поліцейського.
Compliance with ethical considerations, professionalism, confidentiality, and gender sensitivity in communications with survivors.
Дотримання етичних рамок, принципи конфіденційності, прояви гендерної чутливості в процесі взаємодії з постраждалою особою.
All police officers require specialized domestic violence training to review the dynamics of domestic violence and how officers can use resources in the community to provide a response rather than just reviewing standard operating procedures.
Поліцейським необхідний спеціалізований курс, присвячений реагуванню на домашнє насильство. Це необхідно, щоб зрозуміти цикл насильства та шляхи застосування наявних ресурсів в громаді задля надання всебічного реагування, а не лише просто дотримуватись стандартів операційних процедур.
CUPD has had several domestic violence initiatives over the last several years focused on developing working relationships between police officers and civil society organizations.
За останні роки канадсько-український проект розвитку поліції запровадив вже декілька ініціатив в рамках тематики протидії домашньому насильству, центральна ідея яких полягала в тому, щоб налагодити робочі відносини між поліцією та громадськими організаціями в місцевих громадах.
Focusing on building trust and collaboration of effort to combat this crime.
Головна мета була покращення рівня довіри та партнерства у подоланні цього протизаконного явища.
Please continue, Tracy.
In July, we turned our attention to enhancing the capacity of police officers to improve response to calls for service relating to domestic violence complaints.
З червня місяця ми проєктом сконцентрувалися на роботі над покращенням навичок поліцейських під час реагування на повідомлення про вчинення домашнього насильства, а саме над розробкою додаткових інструментів.
Providing officers with additional tools, resources to address and respond to these critical situations, specifically within intimate relationships.
ці інструменти та різноманітні ресурси можуть слугувати та використовуватися в таких випадках, особливо при гендерно обумовленому насильстві.
In collaboration with teams from both the MPU and CPMU, we have developed an online in-service training course to assist and guide officers by providing practical coaching.
Разом із командою експертів з Національної поліції України та Канадською поліцейською місією ми розробили навчальний онлайн-курс з конкретними
This
прикладами
includes current
для підвищення
legislation, communications, conducting risk assessments, issuance of emergency protection orders, and assisting survivors in developing a safety plan and exit strategy particular to each situation.
До курсу входять такі складові, як інформація про чинне законодавство, ефективна комунікація, проведення оцінки ризиків, винесення термінового заборонного припису та допомога постраждалому
In
розробці.
this training, officers are informed and enabled to work closely with local support agencies to reduce the immediate danger to the victim and their children.
А також входить до курсу є розробка власного плану безпеки. В рамках курсу поліцейські будуть проінформовані про те, як співпрацювати на місцевому рівні з різними організаціями.
Emphasizing police working together with the community can help stop this violence.
Головна ідея в тому, що спільна робота в громаді може допомогти зупинити насильство.
It is anticipated that this training will evolve into a more comprehensive training package.
Ми плануємо, що даний відеокурс буде перетворений на майбутньому на повноцінну навчальну програму.
Given current realities that are placing additional pressures and responsibilities on police, the format for this particular training course was developed to first meet the needs of those first responders with varying levels of experience and or understanding of their role.
З огляду на обмеження, пов'язані з пандемією, що ще більше підвищує навантаженість поліцейських, було прийнято рішення зупинитися на такому форматі курсу, щоб негайно поліцейські могли будь-який час його
In
подивитися.
combating and preventing domestic violence. Thank you.
І для подальшої покращення ефективності та їх компетентності у реагуванні на випадки домашнього насильства. Дякую.
Дякуємо,
Thank-
Трейсі. Дякуємо за
Thank you, Tracy.
вагомий внесок
Thank you for this
канадської поліції і
important
поліції
impact of your work.
Ми зробили свій вклад в розвиток цього курсу, адже він дійсно важливий, і ми ще почуємо думку Національної поліції щодо цього курсу. А наразі я
Unfortunately, with dubbing, I
прошу
cannot
вас бути дуже
translate.
уважними і подивитися
But now let's
ролик,
look
який
at the
приготований
video,
спеціально для запуску цього курсу,
which was created specifically to launch this
а
course,
також про складові курсу,
and you will learn more about parts of this training course. So please, let's see.
Приблизно кожна третя жінка у світі зазнавала домашнього насильства. На жаль, ця проблема
Unfortunately, this problem is common for many countries. And we know this number of cases of domestic violence with growth of pandemics has increased. During pandemics in Canada, we had 12% more of calls connected to domestic violence. But other parts of the world suffer the same. Especially with the pandemic quarantine, lead to increase in number of cases and it gets more severe. Unfortunately, though tragic it is, not every house is safe. And in this course, we will share with best practices, Canadian experience, and instruments to fight domestic violence. The initiative to create this course would not be possible without cooperation with National Police of Ukraine. Each professional approach and desire to create good learning course helped to creation of domestic violence course, which was aligned with Ukrainian legislation and best practices. I hope your participation in this training course will help for you to become agents of change to fight this course. We thank the Government of Canada for support of this training product. Police officers face domestic violence on a daily basis, and knowing the domestic violence law and efficiency, effective practices to fight it will help to create zero tolerance environment, and the action of police officer will be the most important in this. The most important part is safety of the police officer. This course will help to revive and refresh the skills to fight domestic violence and be safe. It will also help to increase efficiency of work and add extra instruments to fight domestic violence. Facing the average Ukrainian family, police officers will see how to apply legislation to fight domestic violence. The course consists of 6 thematic courses, and it has instructions how to interview offender and victim, how to evaluate risks, how to fill up the restraining and restrictive orders, and to plan safety for police officer and the victim. Moreover, police officer will learn how to work with victims, with IDPs and minorities. So, online course which was created for the National Police of Ukraine, and more details of this course will be discussed by Olena Dashutina, who is the head of monitoring department, monitoring gender equality and coordinate domestic violence cases. Please, Olena. Unmute yourself, please.
Олена, не чуємо вас. Звук, мікрофон. Ні, не чуємо. Подивіться, будь ласка, у правому куточку верхньому. Є.
So, as it was already mentioned, I would like to say hi. And as it was mentioned earlier by other speakers, it's quite unique for Ukrainian police to have such a course. We never had any detailed course on reacting and preventing domestic violence. This online course will consist of 8 videos where we will show the line of work and algorithm of work for a police officer to deal with case of domestic violence. There will be a real case, real family, and real issues of this real family discussed. Police officers will get acquainted with legislation on domestic violence. They will learn about cycle of violence. They will learn about controlling behavior and relations of that type. They will also learn how to communicate properly with victim. And they also will understand why it is important to build rapport with the victim and how to evaluate risks and assess risks and how to do it properly. They will definitely understand what indicators of risk are important. They will also learn how to fill up the form of restraining orders and how to apply different opportunities to restrain and restrict people from communicating with each other. More in the course will deal with they will deal with cooperation between other stakeholders who are involved in fighting domestic violence. And they also will learn why it is so important to inform victims and build trust with assisting by the public to the victim. The course will be important to police officers by improving their skills in the fight domestic violence and prevent domestic violence. Moreover, it will help to build trust from the community And we're really thankful to CUPDP for creation of this course. We're also thankful to Canadian Police Mission in Ukraine and RCMP specifically for creation of this course. I hope this is not the last time we cooperate, and in future we will have opportunity to realize different other projects. Thank you, Kateryna.
Thank you very much, Olena, and we look forward to hear the first feedbacks after launching this online course. And we will share the next steps on how to improve and what are going to be the next steps. So please wait for the news, maybe in December, late December, January, about launching of this course. In order to summarize this part, let me say, as Tracy mentioned and Olena mentioned, cooperation between all the stakeholders and effective response and implementation of international approaches in combating domestic violence. It's very important to do today in Ukraine, and thanks to cooperation between police and international partners and NGOs in regions of Ukraine, we're implementing international practices, and I consider we're gonna continue implementing them thanks to such platform, and police officers will improve their response. And I think we will go on and continue to move forward. Let me read a few comments we have from you, dear participants. One, regarding problematic issues, absence of legal aspect of cooperation between social services and police during the nighttime. Very important comment. Later on, we will listen to the results of the projects of NGOs in different cities of Ukraine and different regions, and they will share this issue. Thank you for raising this issue up. It does exist. The problem does exist, and we will write it down for future cooperation. TV is important topic. Cooperation between all the stakeholders must be. We have. Thank you very much. Yes, we will talk about that. Active participation of the communities is important. Motivation of the communities to participate, trust. Thank you, Tatiana, who mentioned the comment. Please be attentive during the next session. Our partners will emphasize about methods of step-by-step implementation of all the initiative, of all the projects, and we will have slides with pictures, and you will see step-by-step implementation. In order to move forward to the second session, I suggest to make a technical break. Right now we have 4:09. Let's come back in 10 minutes sharp. We will pause the broadcasting, so please be online, write your questions, and see you in 10 minutes. Greetings again. We continue, and our next session is experience of cooperation between communities and police in combating domestic violence, prevention of domestic violence in pandemic COVID-19. It's not a secret that during the pandemic, COVID-19, the situation became worse, and there was an issue how to make the cooperation better. Canadian government discussed on how to improve this cooperation, and they came to a conclusion that police officers and communities must be supported. So the new conditions must be created on how to prevent domestic violence and how to help victims in such difficult times. And as we, as a CUPDP project, we realize that we may assist in providing grant support to our organizations. We cooperate with patrol police and public organizations in these regions, and we contacted our partners, both police officers and public organizations, and in such cities as Zaporizhzhia, Ivano-Frankivsk, Kyiv, Dnipro, Kherson, we got together, discussed how responses can be done in a fast time, and provided funds to launch the projects. The projects has been implemented. Some of them were started in summer and still continue, but all of them are very important in those local cities with local problems, because it's very important to understand what are the local problems in particular in a certain city, and what must be done in particular this time, in particular for this community, and how the police and other stakeholders can help, assist, react to help victims and prevent domestic violence. We have 5 cities, 5 public organizations, and representatives from patrol police and NPU, and they will share the results, the goal of the projects, and recommendations how to improve the cooperation between police officers and community in preventing this problem. Dear participants, please mention if you can hear me and see me well. Please make comments in the chat if you can hear me well and see me well, and we will move forward to our presentations. Okay. All good? Then let's continue. All right. Today, let me remind you. Okay, let me first invite public organization Successful Woman, Angela Litvinenko, and community police officer and patrol police Bachtel Alena from Kherson region. They will tell us a few words about the projects, the project they have implemented in Kherson. So the floor is yours. We're very happy to see you, and we're ready to listen. So go ahead. Good day, everyone. In Kherson, during the pandemic time, the amount of complaints for domestic violence increased, and the Successful Woman organization Patrol Police. Я плохо ее слышу. Please, next slide. The results of the projects. We received a positive support to to work with victims, and we also received protection for the police, masks, respirators, gloves, sanitizers, and raincoats. For the work with kids, we received disposable diapers, 2 boosters, car seats. We were really happy to receive those because sometimes we need to deliver children to the hospitals or to social centers. And even in the cases of domestic violence, the victims sometimes also need car seats for kids to be delivered. Also for, we received isothermic blankets to work with the families who are in very difficult conditions, as well as we received the dry goods, because during the pandemic time we had cases with poor families where they didn't have any food at all. So that's what we were able to receive and help them. Next slide, please. The results of the projects as well was launching of 3 work groups. The algorithm of cooperation between social services, police, and public organizations in the conditions of quarantine were discussed. Also, the algorithm was approved. The next slide. Good day. They received lessons, what we'll have learned. The shelter of the 3rd level. This is the apartment where women may receive psychological help, and they need time to socialize. And in our apartment, they were able to take care of their kids, of themselves. They were able to buy food products, but we paid the utilities and the rent. And thanks to the project, and this allowed women to live properly. And at the end of the project, we made a photo project. It was a professional photo shoot, and you can see the difference between the first pictures and the second. When we were launching this photo project, some of them were crying. It was a very touching moment. They didn't expect that they could feel much better. That's why we recommend to Ministry and NPU that they need to activize the cooperation between public organizations that work in the area of human rights protection and provide help to the victims of domestic violence, victims of human trafficking, and to protect rights of children and disabled people. We would like also to share our experience of CCG in Kherson. You can see it at the picture, why this CCG was created. It was created to identify the actual problem in the community and mobilization of all the resources to solve. Constant monitoring and reaction to the problems. And there is a certain action plan or algorithm on how it's done. You can see it on the next slide. Who are the stakeholders of this CCG? Local authorities, NPU, patrol police, NGOs, and they are all involved in identifying the problem, and we are honest about these problematic issues. We try to find the common approach, how to solution. We make a common plan, joint plan. We set up the deadlines, and we implement this action plan. And during the implementation, we monitor. We can see at this picture, the next picture, Tracy Hardy and Kateryna Kamashnikova, how they were sharing this technique. And we adjusted this technique to our reality in Kherson, and we have really good results. And Alona will add a few words as well. Let me say that the initiator of CCG in Kherson was Konstantin, the chief of patrol police, and he organized the first meeting, and we were referring to the theory of broken window, and after monitoring our streets, we found that the central pedestrian street, Suvorova, was the most problematic street, and we paid attention to this street, and we decided to create safe environment. And one of the results of the work of our CCG is that the deputy and local authorities allowed us to use, they gave us a piece of land for creative public space for youth, for the youth to meet up. And at the next slide, you can see our contacts. We are ready to share our experience. You can address us questions, and we are very thankful to the project and all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's really pleasant. Your presentation have showed how to solve all the issues we raised today and how to step by step solve the issue. Start with communicating, start to create consultative groups, and it's really important. Kherson knows much more about how to efficiently deal with such issues, and I would like to others know that thanks to active cooperation between police and NGOs, Angela represents one, and those initiatives, joint initiatives, have led to use of instruments we offer, and it resulted in really high and efficient work. And we have more work to do and another project which we will announce later. And I think that participants were able to take screenshots of the steps, and if not, we will share this information in our group. And good luck. And next speaker will be Zaporizhia city, NGO from Zaporizhia, Union of Psychologists, Timofey representing, and Community Policing Department of National Police, Kateryna representing. So please share with us your experience, what worked, what results you have reached, what do you want for future, and what do you recommend? What is the best practices and lessons learned of cooperation? Hello, everybody. As our project connected to security and safety, we thought of two different aspects. First step is to support police officers who are dealing with domestic violence, and then assistance to victims of domestic violence. From our personal experience, we know needs of all these groups and the issues they face and challenges they face. So first part of the project will be devoted to police officers, and it will be by police officers for police officers. Now, please, Kateryna. In the framework of this project, we bought everything needed for a relaxation room, and this room is located in the center of our NGO. We have made specific anti-stress packages, which we used for police officers' work and for work with kids who were victims of domestic violence. Psychologists of National Police were trained how to provide assistance to domestic violence victims. This training covered indicators, stages of work of domestic violence, and how to communicate with offenders. We also spoke about professional burnout and also have made an online training for hotline operators, how to react to calls on domestic violence, especially knowing the risk indicators. We have also made supervision for 2 groups of psychologists. One group was patrol police, one was for national police representatives. Thanks to the project, we have finished relaxation groups for kids victims of domestic violence. And in the framework of the second component, we assisted 16 female victims and 18 children victims of domestic violence. We have made 11 researches on domestic violence cases. And as a result of the project, we found there was one case of sexual assault on kid. And people who have committed this sexual assault are fired now from work at school. And 4 criminal cases were initiated on this basis. We have also initiated different petitions to the local authorities and have collected enough votes to create shelter for female victims of domestic violence. Lessons learned on this case are: we are facing new challenges now, and in this case, we have worked with the psychological service of National Police and involved it into cooperation on this project. We are also needed to create new view on the world by police officers, new philosophy of life. And what you see is something what changes you, and that's what we used. And now we ourselves understand that cooperation between police and NGO are person to person, not organization to organization. So we have learned that we need to create personal relations with officers in future as well. What do we recommend for NPU? We are ready to share all the best practices and lessons learned, and these are unique experiences. We are ready to share how to shape the worldview of police officer, how to be progressive and emotionally stable. And in this case, NGOs can be used as outsourcing units to provide training for police. What next? We can mobilize target groups, and they will be mobilized through mass media and other NGOs, through lawyers and opinion makers. But in addition, creation of communication and space of cooperation with police is done through cooperation and personal cooperation. And what we mean here, we cooperate not only with police officers, but also involve their families and in off hours when they do not work, we help police officers to understand that they are needed and they are appreciated by the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Thank you, Kateryna. We cooperate with you for a long time, and this issue of combating domestic violence we know about, and the opportunities that you have in the organization DIA action. Police officers have a chance to respond to domestic violence calls during the day and during the nights. And I think we will share these ideas and stories on our platform, because the feedbacks I heard from victims, they are very touching, and I think we may decrease the number of such cases if we hear more. And the next speaker, I invite Ivano-Frankivsk city, and the organization is DOM 48.24, Natalia Vishnevetsky, and Patrol Police representative Alexandra Babetska. And please, we would like to hear you. We're thrilled to hear results about your project, and I know this had a huge result, so we're thrilled to hear about it. Good day, everybody. We can say that achievements we really had. We started to work on the idea of crisis room. The project is called Crisis Room. During our patrol police work, we realized that domestic violence victims who have children, they don't have a place to go to. So please, next slide. And the question raised up if such room is needed. Researchers were done. We talked to a lot of stakeholders and came to a conclusion that such a room is really needed, because the amount of victims is huge, and there is a need to hide something. There's somewhere during this crisis. And we started this cooperation together with Natalia, and few steps. Natalia is gonna share how we were able to implement it. The main issue, when it was raised up 2 years ago at a round table, few people mentioned that there is no need in crisis room because people refuse to go there. And we accepted 15 families. Victims we had of different age, the youngest 20, the older 70, different social status, totally different women, and they spent different period of time, starting from one night and ending up with almost 28 days. We informed different NGOs, social services, tried to sign a memorandum and faced legal challenges. Can you please switch to the next slide? Thank you. Also in this project, when we opened the room, we understood who are the stakeholders: hotline, police, social services. They knew they could direct victims to us, but we also wanted to pass this information to the communities, to the public, because when we talk to police, people mentioned, why do we need to call the police? It's useless. They arrive at the call several times per night, but couldn't do anything. So we, via media, we posted different news, videos, we created an information campaign. We showed we asked victims of domestic violence where would they like to see this information. So it's been placed in public transport near the houses. As well, in the framework of this project, we created a chat bot in Viber, and you see the QR code. We decided to use Viber. Sometimes it's easier to use Telegram. However, we communicated to the victims in our room, and we realized that not all of them knows or uses Telegram, but Viber, the majority does use. Also, we made like a manual opening a crisis room, and we used the international experience for the information. We put the stories of the victims we had in our crisis room, and the problems that we faced after interviewing those victims. I will pass the word to Alexandra again, because they were developing and this. At the beginning, we were thinking about creating trainings for the victims of domestic violence. However, after we observed, we realized we needed to also cooperate with those who deal with combating domestic violence. That's why we were conducting trainings for social workers through like social drama. We learned this method from our Polish colleagues. This is a piece of psychological method where people are playing roles and they can live through the story in a certain scenario. That's why these trainings, the trainings that could help in those people in difficult conditions and situations, they were very, very successful. We received good feedbacks, and they motivated them to assist in helping victims of domestic violence. Also, trainings for women. First, we talked to the female victims, and they told us they didn't need only self-defense tactics or similar. They mentioned that it's very important to educate other people about this problem. That's why we made the topics, we made it bigger. Lessons received. For us, the surprise was that these projects require more time. We started to work without any papers, any documentation.
Коли потрібно розв'язати ситуацію жінки, тобто вона потрапляє в кризову кімнату короткотерміново, і там ми думали, що через 5-7 днів її ситуація розрішиться і вона буде кудись скерована. Але виявилося, що дуже часто навіть
It happens that even if we thought that when a victim comes to the crisis room, it would take us a month, it would take us a short period of time to solve the problem. However, we noticed that it requires a month or even more, and the situation is still not solved. And also understanding the needs of women who suffer from domestic violence. For example, we had a victim, the gypsy, a female victim who didn't know how to read, and she was a victim of domestic violence, and nobody wanted to hire her. So some organizations may be flexible in helping victims to find a job. For me personally, this project changed a lot in how we need to approach the procedure of combating domestic violence. I think this was the last slide, recommendations now to the Minister and NPU. We're very happy with our cooperation with police. I'm never tired to say that. And our experience, how we can spread it all around to increase, to assess how big the problem is and talk to police. Some stakeholders mentioned that the crisis room was not needed. However, police only knows the exact statistics of the victims and the calls, and so that's why we need to talk to police. Also, after communicating with different colleagues in different regions, I realized that it's all unique in each region. It's very important to find the room that could be appropriate for the crisis room. It must be confident on one side. So also personnel must be found, because the majority of the time was the night time when all these victims were brought. Also inform relevant stakeholders about opening of this room, police, hotlines, ministry, NGOs, social services, and we also mentioned few life hacks in our manual, which I was talking about at the beginning of the presentation. Thank you. This is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Natalia. Thank you, Miss Alexandra. I will never get tired of having opportunity to give and hear recommendations on the projects, because what you see now is a quintessence of result of work of different projects, and it's a unique information. And we definitely will share the recording of this seminar, and you will have it available for you, dear listeners. I definitely understand how difficult it is to make something from scratch. And I even remember Natalia calling me and telling about the challenges she faced. And I'm really grateful that you're still motivated to fix the situation in Ivano-Frankivsk. And I can say that creating the crisis room and the brochure, it can be applied in different regions, and it can help to assist cooperating of people and authorities. We need to create new opportunities for cooperation with local authorities, and we'll continue cooperating with you as well. And definitely we'll share with you different new steps we want to make. And I would like to say thank you. And next speaker is different city. Right now, what we have online connection between Dnipro and us, Gender Stream NGO, Olga Polyakova representing one, and representative of National Police in Dnipro region, Natalia. We're really glad to see you. Please share your results. And I know that your project is really successful and you never stop on this. So please present your results. Hello, everybody, dear colleagues. Thank you, colleague Kateryna, for introducing us today with Ms. Natalia, who we work with starting from 2016, are glad to present lessons learned and best practices of the project completed. Our project is a hotline on psychological support for victims of domestic violence, especially during the quarantine period. The idea arose in March, and in April we have started the project. What is the reason? The reason is to build resilience of victims of domestic violence, females who are either in the risk zone or who have suffered from domestic violence or suffered from gender-based violence. As we've all heard, the number of cases of domestic violence has increased, and not always there is opportunity for females to contact police, and sometimes victims just need some psychological support just to relieve stress, and that's what we would do. And now we'll tell you results of our work. The project was short, and still that was efficient project. One of results is we have developed tight relations with police, and we've increased cooperation with national police. Yes, Olga has said absolutely right. We had multiple projects, and with the pandemics and domestic violence increased during pandemics, the topic was supported by all the stakeholders, and thanks to Olga and our cooperation, we now are proud to share results which you see on the screen. As you see in numbers, the results are as follows. I don't want to read them out loud. I just stress one thing. And I would speak about logistics of the project. You know, there is a law on fighting domestic violence, where all the stakeholders participating in fighting domestic violence are listed. And we as NGO, we're part of a group and collaborating with police and city administration. City administration provided us with hotline number, and each NGO can receive a hotline for its activities. What is important is to create business processes properly, because there is an issue communicating with psychologists is not very common within our communities. So in addition to results, we can speak about lessons learned. One of the issues we still face, that according to the law on domestic violence, all the stakeholders need to be involved. And Dnipro region is one of those regions where there is no active reaction and proactive reaction of other social services. Police arrives to the call and then nobody works with kids. Of course, we don't have enough time to present our results. Still, I would like to add on the lessons learned is that distant locations, people just don't know what kind of domestic violence there is, and people don't see something as a domestic violence. And that's why they don't even call knowing that something is wrong, but they don't know that they need to call this hotline. Our cooperation has just started, and we would like to stress that Gender Stream NGO is only one of NGOs, and I would like to call for other NGOs to join and cooperate with us in future. Lessons learned are on the screen. Please read them yourself. And now let's jump to recommendations. Recommendations for NPU, National Police. We have created recommendations for NPU, and it was quite equally. We faced that it would be just for them to recommend something to us. So one of the recommendations to create roadmap and involve all stakeholders and build coalition between stakeholders, state administrations, and NGOs and public. Another important thing is to increase number of mobile groups in the rural areas, especially areas in Dnipro region. There is an issue with understanding that something is domestic violence. And I would like to say that different stakeholders, NGOs can provide an overview and like control on work of state authorities. That's your part. And as for hotline work, it would be great to let people call at least till 11 p.m. because the peak of cases happen in the evening, not during daytime. And when there is a time to call, and it's the time to call police or at least hotline. That's what our mobile group have experienced. Please continue cooperation with mobile groups and please provide them with psychological support because they need it. Another thing which is an issue for all the regions of Ukraine is building cooperation. So in case you have any logistical questions on creation hotline, ask us. I insist that we need to provide hotlines to every local citizen because there is an opportunity for volunteers to arrive after a call to a hotline. And if you have a local volunteer, you definitely can provide assistance immediately. And it's not only psychological support, it can be even medicines that you can bring and provide a person with drugs. So in case you have any questions, call us. We will share all the lessons learned and best practices as well. Thank you for your time and thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, Natalia. This was a pilot of hotlines, and we heard very interesting situations where the hotline worked really well. So they were able to solve local issues in Dnipro. And I think if we and other partners able to help in the future, and if we do, we will see the dynamics in reduction of domestic violence calls and cases, and we will see the increase of level of trust from the society. Thank you. We will continue cooperation with you. Again, appreciations. Please stay with us. We will have a Q&A session later. Next speaker is Kyiv City and La Strada Ukraine organization, represented by Marina and Olena. There is a very tight cooperation, connection between police and La Strada organization. So let's listen to them, what projects they have now, and Olena will comment on this cooperation as well. Thank you. Good day, everybody. Our project, first of all, was what was about improving response of the police officers to domestic violence and access for the victims to contact about this problem. Next slide, please. In general, results of the projects may be divided into three. First, the e-channel of consultation was open in Telegram. 3 online discussions were conducted where challenges were discussed and possible ways of responses. And another important result of the project was questionnaire interviews on national hotline among victims of domestic violence. They were questioned by the police. They were explaining, they were telling about their stories from their personal experience. Next slide, please. One of the results was the result of the lessons learned that we've faced or seen, and that's why this slide is combined with lessons. This situation was changed upon the quarantine. Sometimes people didn't even have a chance to call a hotline or 102 regarding domestic violence, and we learned the lessons. Together with the project, we received an opportunity to open the Telegram from August, and it works 24/7. You see the number of calls that was increased every month. In November, we received 6 complaints. In November 2020, despite of the fact that restrictions of the quarantine were cancelled, the number of complaints about domestic violence was still raising up. To the hotline and to Telegram channel. It shows that not every victim has a chance to call directly to any type of line, whether it's 102 or NGO line, via call, via phone. Telegram channels or other channels might be more efficient. Taking into consideration the complaints and all the aspects of our project, we learned the lesson empowering operational communication and cooperation in the conditions of pandemics of all the stakeholders during response to the cases of domestic violence. The victims were asked if they about cooperation with all the stakeholders, and the answers were that not always they were able to receive the help from each involved party, and we need to find flexible approaches. For example, how to cooperate during the holidays. Some organizations, they work regular hours from 9 to 6, for example. So we realized we needed to find ways, flexible ways on how to solve these issues. Next slide, please. Based on research, the cases we received in our Telegram chat and during our online discussions we had, and Olena will focus on that, we underlined certain few important recommendations for the Ministry of Internal Affairs and NPU. Finalize and solve the issue of EPOs regarding the offender who is self-isolated in the room, which will force him to leave the room in the conditions of the complete lockdown. Also, solve the issue of preventive measures with the goal to increase awareness of the society regarding domestic violence, and also pay attention to the importance of the presence of the TCPO. Thank you. 3 webinars were conducted with the help of NPU. First one is awareness about domestic violence and zero tolerance. Second webinar was problems, how to help and assist the victims, social help, especially victims in the rural areas, and interesting how it would be done in the conditions of decentralization. And the third topic was EPO in the COVID reality. Who were involved? Mobile groups, TCPOs, and the local authorities. Also representatives from Preventive Police Department, and we had police officers from 11 regions of Ukraine. During discussion, we were talking about how to make the offender, the abuser, leave in the conditions of COVID isolation, and especially when it's a self-isolation. We understand that there were really huge problems how to make him live. As well, we discussed the question about the issue about how to help the victim to come to the shelter. because we had situations where they, in order to accommodate the victims in the shelter, they had to see the negative COVID test. And in the majority of the cases, the victim does not even have money to take the test. And the state shelters, they have this condition and they don't accept without a test. With private shelters, the situation was a little bit better. We discussed cooperation with other stakeholders and common joint algorithm.
У різниці у сприйнятті судом та органами прокуратури норм законодавства у сфері домашнього насильства.
Another interesting discussion was cooperation with the court and the court system.
Їх вже озвучила Катерина, і для покращення деякі проблеми вже на сьогоднішній день винесли для обговорення на рівні.
Some of the problems were put for discussion on the level of the ministry. It was very interesting to listen to the practitioners who face domestic violence cases and also people who create policies and also come up with some steps, practical steps on how to respond to domestic violence. Thank you, Olena. Thank you, Kateryna. Very happy to see such results of your joint cooperation, because we understand that the hotline of La Strada works for a long time, still more to do, and as Kateryna mentioned, all possible technologies are used nowadays to help people in order to receive complaints about domestic violence, to be more efficient, and cooperation regarding training goes on. I think this cooperation with La Strada will go on. We will inform about this on our platform. And I think all NGOs and police officers, if they allow us, we will share the presentations and the results they presented today with you, dear participants, so you can observe maximum information from what you've heard today, because in my opinion, without this online opportunity, we wouldn't be able to share this information all over Ukraine and show these results to all the regions, the results of the active organizations and police officers. So we have contacts of all the presenters and speakers. You can contact them personally if you have an interest. And this is an online opportunity that gives us more opportunities to implement new initiative and spread them all over Ukraine. And we move to the next session, which is Q&A session. I see all the participants are very impressed with the results. No questions now, but I think there will be later once you start thinking about how you implement these initiatives in your communities. And I would like to ask all the speakers. Ivano-Frankivsk had to leave, unfortunately. However, for everybody else, such a question. Can you underline the most important challenge you've faced during implementation of the project and the success and achievement? Can you underline challenge and achievement? of your project.
Тому давайте
So
розпочнемо.
let's start from Kherson.
Пані Анджело, пані Альоно, чи є у вас думки з цього приводу?
So,
Будь ласка.
please,
Мікрофон.
turn on your
Так.
microphone, please.
Так, включила. Ну, якщо про найбільший виклик, то тут
So the major challenge, I cannot define one, because we have multiple,
найбільшим. Взагалі
but the situation with coronavirus is a really tough situation, of course.
Коли люди в складних
And
життєвих
for people who
навіть зателефонувати
couldn't even have money to call us and would call from, or at least their neighbors would call just for them to get help. And if we speak about the best achievement is the shelter of third level. That's the first time in Ukraine. It's the first time when something was done of that scale. And the story of life of our females who managed to solve their issues. There was a situation when for one of our victims, it was safe to. She didn't have any issues with health or security, but she wouldn't have money to live because she would get divorced, and this shelter helped to sustain her, and she managed to solve all the issues. And another case, for example, for a mother of two, she wouldn't be allowed to stay in the shelter. But, well, and she was asked to leave. And what we have provided an opportunity to. She was given 3 months of staying in the shelter. And within these 3 months, she managed to secure her new career, and she started working as an administrator and found a place to stay. And what we gave her is a nudge to develop herself. And this photo project shows her as well as others. And our project is helping somebody not to stay alone, and they have certain steps to take with our help. And it would be great if we could provide such service of shelter, of third level shelter, to everybody to sustain victims of domestic violence. Thank you.
Дякуємо вам. Давайте запитаємо Запоріжжя.
Zaporizhia, please. What are your challenges and achievements? I would say I would want to speak about challenge first. And the challenge, while providing social support to victims and kids who suffered from domestic violence. And I don't think we are alone in this. So the challenge is prejudice from judges and from some police officers. There is a bias from police and judges. We have seen ourselves how, while interviewing children, certain police officer would ask wrong questions. Something we hear from judges rhetorics which justifies the offender. For example, like we need to pay attention to the specifics and traditions of Ukrainian families and the gender role of a female in a family. So first task we set up for ourselves is to change the philosophy of life in the society, worldview of people who need to support victims, that will work on prevention, not working with symptoms. Thank you. And what about achievements? What do you see as an achievement? I think that this project was achievement by itself. And at the moment, after it is over, we have two groups who help victims. And we never knew what it will lead to. And now we have feedback, and I cannot share them because they're really sensitive. Not always we can share anything. But, for example, in certain social media, females say thank you to us and describe what exactly they thank us for. They do not hide, they do not get anonymous, they do not register under different names. They are open, there is a kind of coming out. And we as NGO are really feeling that it's the achievement we can assign to ourselves. Thank you. It's very pleasant to hear your advice, and we will definitely pay attention to them, both challenges and achievements. I read myself those this feedback. Dnipro, please, your challenges and achievements. Multiple challenges, multiple. Coronavirus is the first one. Quarantine is the second one. That all led to lack of opportunity to reach the victims, and as well as lack of opportunity to work with children victims. The quarantine itself increased number of cases and prevented us from properly reacting towards the cases. And as for achievements, we both think that every consultation we provided on hotline is a success story. Two of women calling us said later that we saved their lives, and they were found power in themselves to break the cycle of violence and relations, and that is the success. Anybody else can provide their feedback? No? I know that in Frankivsk has a different meeting, La Strada has a different meeting. So if you don't have any comments and we don't have any questions, I would like to finalize this great meeting and online results sharing. And as Dnipro has mentioned, such projects and joint efforts from international partners, national police and NGOs, we all together change lives of females and help them to break the cycle of violence and never return to the previous life. And I hope this is one of the efforts which were done within the framework of international campaign against domestic violence. And today is the day of human rights, and independent of gender or any other thing, all the opportunities we have to share how to fix issues is important. For future, we would like to work together, because this opportunity, even today, online, we have an opportunity to feel as a part of a big community which is able to fight domestic violence and prevent it. And thanks to cooperation of Ukrainian stakeholders and international stakeholders, we'll be able to overcome this issue. And I thank you for your time and efforts. And as usual, I would like you to
всіх вас залишити
leave your comments and your wishes
можливо, питання на
and questions for future on what activities you would like to see in our online community. Please, now you see the feedback form. Write us back and comment on what you heard. And from my personal opinion, I can say that thanks to cooperation, we will work in future fighting different other issues. And though the times are tough, but new ideas and new year will give us new powers to fight issues we still face in our society, because we all work for safety and security of our communities. We do not stop on this, we continue, and I would like to say goodbye. See you in future and follow our news. Thank you and goodbye.